Hey, what's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and these are my favorite metal albums of February 2021. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Alright, as you saw from that clip, first we have Harakiri For The Sky and their highly anticipated new album Mære via AOP Records. Harakiri For The Sky is an Austrian melodic black and post-black metal band that has seriously turned heads in the underground scene since their conception in 2011. With their previous release Arson actually reaching number 29 in the German music charts. Mære is the band's fifth album named for a malicious folk entity that creeps on people's chests during the night, causing breathlessness and anxiety. I've always appreciated Harakiri From The Sky somewhat from afar over the years, but 2021 is the year that they finally won me into the inner circle with this new effort. Despite the initially daunting hour and 25-minute runtime, the band does not waste even a moment of the duration on padding. In fact, the album breezes by so seamlessly that it never feels its length. This is another highly atmospheric and, dare I say, majestic outing for the band that may just be their finest work to date. A seeming fusion of everything from Numenorian to Insomnium, and featuring guest appearances from members of both Alcest and Gaia. Check out tracks like I Pallbearer, Sing for the Damage We've Done, 3 Empty Words, and Song to Say Goodbye. Then we have Suffering Hour with their new album The Cyclic Reckoning via Profound Lore Records. Suffering Hour is a blackened death metal power trio from Forest Lake, Minnesota, with a broad range of influences reported from Inquisition and Mgla to the Chasm and Dead Congregation. The band previously made waves with their 2017 debut record In Passing Ascension, subsequently followed up by the 2019 EP Dwell. The Cyclic Reckoning is a natural continuation, only further drifting into the abyss. Suffering Hour continued to unite more modernized, complex tech death like Ulcerate with darker and uglier blackened acts like Adversarial and Abyssal, resulting in an always immersive experience. Many of the slinking, serpent-like riffs here would be just as much at home on a Deathspell Omega album were it not for the inhuman bellows of the vocals. But I also hear plenty of allusions to the 2015 abyssal masterpiece Anti-Catastasis as well, with its strange and stunning balancing act of transcendent, otherworldly melodies and infinite oppressive darkness. The Cyclic Reckoning is 5 tracks covering 45 minutes of pure festering wickedness. In just a few years and only 2 prior releases, it really is impressive that I've already come to expect nothing less when hearing the name Suffering Hour. Next up, it's Miami band Abiotic with Ikigai via the Artisan Era Records. Abiotic has been around since 2010, but went on a bit of a hiatus after their 2015 sophomore album Casuistry via Metal Blade. Back and even better than ever, Ikigai finds the band leaning on some very classical, progressive, and even Eastern-style instrumentation in addition to the usual brutality. The title is Japanese for A Reason for Being, with each song representing a different take on that concept. The cover art depicts the act of seppuku, with the samurai seeing his lives and potential as he bleeds out. Compositionally, a lot of these tracks sound like a stark collision of Rivers of Nile and the Black Dahlia Murder, with some of the vocals at times sounding like Trevor himself, especially on Souvenir of Skin. As with the title track, one moment you're taking a proggy trudge through dismal melancholy complemented by piano, the next it's an explosion of technical fury. Now on the critical side, I do feel like this album was a little slow to start for me, but once you get to Smoldered, things really start to kick into gear with higher octane riffs and vocals, not to mention a few really ripping solos that actually reminded me of early Meshuggah in parts. So if you're giving this a cursory listen and still feel unsure, stick it out for a few more tracks before making a decision. Other personal favorites include The Wrath If I Do Die and Heretic Cube. In any case, another solid record from one of my favorite labels around. Check out Chris's review on MetalTrenches.com for a more in-depth analysis. For ages, the world did hold the coming, the blind which would usher in the era. Then it's the brand spanking new blackened technical death metal trio Demon King with their debut EP The Final Tyranny, also via the Artisan Era. Formed in 2019, Demon King is backed by original and full Darkness guitarist Matt Brown, In Fury's Malcolm Pugh on bass, and X in Fury, X Vital Remains, X in Full Darkness's Jack Blackburn on drums. With the level of proficiency between these three very talented musicians, it's no wonder that the final tyranny grabbed me by the hair and made me call it Daddy just minutes in. It's a dizzying flurry of technical death and melodic death metal with a Blackened twist on the vocals that drew me to comparisons of Dissection and even more so Veil of Nath. Matt Brown sums up the release perfectly in saying it's all fast and thrashy, yet lush with melody. 100%. It may just be 4 tracks, but they are 4 of the best tracks you'll hear this month, with my personal favorites being Invoking the Spirit of Chaos and Transmutation of the Artilect. Strap in and let the riffs wash over you. Next up, we have Sea Sleeper and their debut record Nostophobia via Metal Assault Records. Sea Sleeper are a Portland-based extreme progressive metal band with a unique blend of influences ranging from Gorguts and Gojira to Mastodon and Blut aus Nord. After garnering a sizable number of views with previous track Nihilism, the band is excited to share their first full-length effort with the world. What initially drew my attention was the primal rage and battering violence of opening track Salt, but I stuck around for the deceptively complex songwriting and often surprising twists and turns. The harsh screams are deranged enough as it is, but when the weird warbly cleans kick in, I start to feel like the insanity might be contagious. Certain moments on Coffin Salesman feel like Primus's Les Claypool performing a collab with Meshuggah, while the guitars on the following track Mountain Carver are straight out of Crack the Sky. Even when I'm not certain whether I like a song or not, I'm always strangely captivated by their wholly original fusion of sounds. We also have Basilica with their self-titled album via Inner Strength Records. The product of 3 music school majors influenced by the broad likes of Dying Fetus, Power Trip, and Code Orange, Basilica is an interesting journey indeed. Pigeonholing this release into any single genre is an utter act of futility, with the rug constantly being pulled out from under you. Grinding Teeth, Starve, and Everything bring the fury with headbanging crossover thrash riffs, while others like Exit Wounded Dispel lay on the more technical car bomb illusions pretty thick. And even within these songs, there's still plenty of room for variation, with the aforementioned Starve, for instance, detouring into a sick bass groove and psychedelic solo to boot. And if that wasn't already enough, these tracks are further broken up by the canned beats and very chill house music vibes of The Fall of Forces and Reflections for Galeen. Cap it all off with massive breakdowns and some throat-shredding guest vocals from the Callous Dowboys Carson Pace on Chugfest Chimeric, and you've got yourself a record that never sacrifices its heaviness in the midst of its stylistic diversity. I tried my best to choose a clip that showcases as many of these things as possible, but it's really not possible to capture the essence of what this band is truly capable of in just 10 seconds. Then it's the new 2021 Emptiness album Vide via Season of Mist. Vide is the 6th album from the Belgian-based band and their first in 4 years. Starting out as a more or less traditional blackened death metal band in the late 90s, it wasn't until 2014's Nothing But the Whole that they really started turning heads with a sudden left turn in their sound, one that became only further apparent with 2017's appropriately titled and even more experimental Not For Music. Vide sees the band only further veer away from convention in favor of introspection and deconstruction. Translating to empty in French, this new album is defined by topical themes of claustrophobia. It was clear right from the singles that Vide would easily outdo both Nothing But the Whole and Not For Music in its sheer malaise. If the drifting, sleepy yet highly eerie tones of La Guerre and Le Mal est chez lui were Emptiness's idea of the hits, I had no idea what to expect from a complete product. Vide en complet is probably the closest thing to what could be called catchy, with its driving bassline and electronified rhythms, hi-hat, and snaps, but even then this feels more like listening in on the internal monologue of a serial killer than anything else. What already tenuous trace elements of metal were left from the previous outing have all but been washed away in favor of minimalist, warbly guitar tones and subtle effects distorted French vocals. It seems like no accident that Emptiness have chosen the language perhaps most associated with romance and eloquence, only to contort it into something far more sinister than any death growl or blackened shriek might conjure. But that's Veed for you, a constant game of taking otherwise innocuous sounds and melding them together into a harrowing, claustrophobic nightmare. Then we have Summoning the Lich and their new 2021 album United in Chaos via Prosthetic Records. Freshly joined to the Prosthetic roster based only on a very well-received self-titled demo, this is the debut full-length for the St. Louis, Missouri-based melodic death metal band, taking campy inspiration from various fantasy realms and presenting them in a style that is pure the Black Dahlia murder. Already having racked up live dates alongside big-name bands like Origin, Beneath the Massacre, and several stops on the Summer Slaughter tour, Summoning the Lich seemed poised for greatness. My introduction to the group was with their music video for the fantastically infectious track Descend, and man, what a song that is. This is everything a fan could hope for in a single, from the impressively technical breakneck instrumentation and grimy bass tone to the catchy as hell chorus. This song is going to be pure scream-along bliss at live performances. No one-hit wonder either, this entire album slaps with the same melodic death metal energy as the classics, rivaling even Nocturnal in its consistency with tracks like The Nightmare Begins, The Gatekeeper, and Acid Rain. The riffs bring equal parts Gothenburg-influenced melodeath and slam-filled chugging that go toe-to-toe with everything from Ingested to Aborted, with just a touch of Carcass for good measure. As for the vocalist, David Bruno has an incredible range with his larynx lacerating high shrieks to the deeper death growls. The guy is every bit as talented as Trevor and Sven combined. United in Chaos is the perfect fusion of melodic death, brutal death, and deathcore that really scratched an itch I've had ever since I first came across Unhallowed. Next up, it's Jotun and their new album Access All Worlds via Metal Blade Records. Translating to giant, Jotun was formed in 2009 with guitarist Jesper Grace initially wanting to create a 70s space rock band. Over the years, this developed beyond that into 2016's acclaimed EP The Wizard Falls, afterwards developing into a more solidified full lineup and this new album. They call Access All Worlds an epic, cosmic, and contemplative journey of energetic beauty and ferocity that reflects on human existence set in a storyline following daring space travelers. Appropriate to the band's name, it is a truly massive sounding record with big, booming death metal vocals, soaring, clean singing, and powerful progressive riffs for a sound that is equal parts Dark Tranquillity, Opeth, and Blind Guardian. With just 7 tracks but covering over an hour, expect some pretty ambitious and lengthy compositions that will take you on a real voyage. There are heavy, hard-hitting segments like Opener Voyage of Gargany, but also more melancholic drifters like the almost Catatonia-esque title track. And if you just want to test the waters, you can also check out the 4-minute 41-second Lehem's Golden Pits, which despite being the shortest track on the album is still very adept at showcasing Jotun's range, while also being pretty damn catchy at the same time. Again, also check out Chris's full review on the site for more details. Next up, it's Serenity Murder with Reborn. Serenity Murder is a melodic death metal band based out of Tokyo, Japan, and if you ask me, they are one of the best modern bands in the genre. I first caught wind of them back in 2015 with The Highest of Dystopia, but it was with 2017's The Eclipse that they truly cemented their status as one of the best and most underrated melodic death metal groups around. Perhaps most akin to groups like Dark Tranquillity and Insomnium, Serenity Murder combine memorable guitar riffs in a variety of styles alongside synth and keys for a listen that is both highly atmospheric and often quite catchy at the same time. The appropriately titled Reborn finds the band only further expanding on their sound in a number of areas, also the first to feature new vocalist Ayumu. Her different approach to the vocals was apparent from the first singles, and I have to say, I am totally down with it. Ayumu brings a little more extremity to her delivery, retching out every syllable like a more Blackened take on arch-enemy's Angela Gossow. But the lineup shift is honestly the least notable of Serenity Murder's stylistic shifts on this album. Speaking of arch-enemy, there are a number of similarly thrash-infused melodeath moments over the course of Reborn that make for some of the band's heaviest tracks to date. but also the perfect balance of earworm shredding fury with synth atmosphere that seems to take you drifting into the clouds. From fiery shredding solos to soaring synths, Reborn is yet another incredible entry for the band's discography and just the fire that this once great genre needs to stay alive. And last, but certainly not least, we have Epica and their new album Omega via Nuclear Blast Records. Omega is the 8th full-length studio album from this Dutch symphonic metal band originally formed nearly 2 decades ago back in 2002. This new effort represents the final part of the metaphysical trilogy initially begun with 2014's The Quantum Enigma. Recorded in a villa in picturesque rural Holland over the course of a very intense week, this was the first time in years the band members spanning 4 countries wrote in the same room with one another, leading to a final product that Epica describes as highly coherent due to the free flow of inspiration. An album of unity, friendship, and the close bond that the band members share. This was another one on my list of bands to check out this year that I've been aware of for years, but for no particular reason have just never listened to a full album from. And I gotta say, I was not disappointed. I loved Omega. It's jam-packed with action, drama, and the perfect mix of traditional and extreme symphonic metal for someone like myself who enjoys the heavier side of the genre. The massive orchestral atmosphere is made even more powerful by the backing of a full live choir, but never at the expense of great guitar hooks either. The levels of creativity involved when considering that the band conjured all of this out of nothing absolutely boggles my mind. Omega is a very engaging and well-written album that perfectly showcases all of the best things that symphonic metal has to offer. Furthermore, it makes me excited at the prospect of digging into Epica's prior discography for even more exciting content. And y'all, that is it. February was a packed month, and honestly, this only scratches the surface of the things that I enjoyed in February. So please do check out all the full reviews. Stick around. There's plenty more videos for you to enjoy from this month and before. I also have interviews on the podcast, tier lists, you name it, we've got it. Plenty of reasons to subscribe, and be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Comment down below which one was your favorite. What did I leave off? I know there are plenty of albums that I left off that people have been really simping over this month too. Ad Nauseum definitely comes to mind. It's just a matter of, like, there was only so many slots I have, and I figured a lot of other people were going to cover that one anyways, so I thought I'd throw in some kind of curveballs here and there. That's what I try to do. I want to expose you to things you haven't heard about. But yeah, chat with us on Discord too, support on Patreon, but that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.